Good morning, everybody. I hope everybody had a good night last night and you were able to enjoy some of the scenery outside and the good food and the good company and got to meet with everybody and mingle, network a little bit. Thank you very much for coming this morning, and I hope everybody had a really good breakfast and you guys are all fed and watered and ready to go. It's going to be a good day today. My name is Nashia. I'm an investigator with the Alberta Office of the Child and Youth Advocate based out of Edmonton. Just a little bit about myself. I've been with the office since 2014. Prior to that, I worked in child welfare for about 10 years in various capacities, and I was also a journalist for about 8 years in Saskatchewan and in Alberta. And this is my co-MC, Alex.
Okay, my name is Alex Shade. I'm a member of the Piikani Nation and Kainai Nation from the Blackfoot Confederacy. I'd like to welcome you to the territory, the traditional territory of the Treaty 7, and we are going to have an elder come up and say our morning prayer, and after that I'm going to sing an honor song. So our elder Sykes, if he's, oh, right there, sorry.
He's just a little taller and I'm down there so he couldn't see me. I'm all stitched. Good morning, everybody. I hope that you had a very enjoyable rest last night. And I heard some of the people just enjoyed the fresh air, just knocked them out, and maybe they're not awake yet. Anyway, let's all join our minds and our spirits together and ask the Creator to help us again today. Hadewa she no ka hakina hondan hakina ni yonanis nimigwe kubunan hayek chubikong in nabne tron pinjin labits. Yon ban dying in nabits yin hoster where kubine tron yonader can hangit yap. Yon the Asian just starting go give one. It's a can Bain jam the darts out, jam the dogs coming. You know, can see a bit of Tavitin, a pinch jab and the age of Jagitia. On that dollar pie, make the no dogs coming on the ones. A jake a hay on a whole thing a Pavitin. The Enget jam. O pinch and a diabetes. Touch him and then go is a home. Sunday when they no even they go when you're buying a tubula. Die by pinch jabichin. I catch a die yab yabichin. Because a chuan didn't come in a chuan. Dear gong yab, that's a nihayambisher. Nangus that's in Patnangambisher. Dan that's our watching cabin. He heard the chabichin. Namakan on the hitchin, pinjin habits, knee down. Amen.
Just before I sing, usually when we start a gathering or some kind of event, we like to pull out all the stops. So usually have a honor song and a prayer from an elder. So I've been singing since I was probably, 8 or 9 years old and haven't stopped. So I'm going to sing a traditional song that comes from the old agency singers back in the Kainai Reserve, so yeah. Yeah.
Thank you, Alex, and thank you, Elder Powderface, for the blessing and the ceremony this morning. At 10:30, there'll be smudging available outside of this room, just because of the sprinkler systems and stuff. So if you are interested, you can. Oh, in the Tom Crane, the elder room that we were in yesterday, there'll be smudging available there at 10:30. I'd like to ask Del Graff, the Alberta Child and Youth Advocate, and Annette King, the Child and Youth Advocate from Yukon, to come up. But before they do, I'll give you a little bit of background about the two of them. Annette started in the position of Child and Youth Advocate in March of 2015. She brings enthusiasm and leadership to building on the foundation that's been developed over the last 5 years up in the Yukon. She was born and raised in Whitehorse and has worked in the field of social work in clinical and leadership positions with the government of Yukon for the last 20 years. She's worked in the areas of child abuse treatment, mental health, and victim services, and her career has focused on client services and program development. Having spent most of her career working in government systems, Annette has an understanding that the complexity of the organizations can get in the way of meeting goals, needs, and the rights of children and youth who access those services. Annette values diversity, respect, collaboration, and building capacity in others. She has a diploma in social work from Red Deer College, as well as a bachelor's degree and a master's degree in social work from the University of Calgary. Del Graff was appointed the Child and Youth Advocate for Alberta in June of 2011. He's worked in social services field for about 30 years and has developed and implemented a range of social programs designed to improve circumstances for vulnerable young people. His formal education includes a master's degree in social work from the University of Calgary and a bachelor's degree in social work from the University of Victoria. He's an accomplished musician, values lifelong learning, and is passionate about his commitment to young people and ensuring their rights, interests, and viewpoints are heard and recognized. So if you'll please join me in welcoming Annette and Del up to the podium, please.
Want me to start? Okay. Thank you very much for that introduction. And good morning to everybody. And thank you to our cultural advisor, Elder Powderface, for the opening prayer. That was very nice, as well as the drumming from Alex. It really grounds us and gets us settled to be able to start this great work. And I would like to acknowledge as well that we're on the traditional territory of Treaty 7. it's nice to be back in Alberta, as you know. This is the only other place I've lived than Whitehorse is Alberta. So I feel like it's a connection, and especially being in the mountains, because this is very similar to the Yukon, if any of you have never been up there. We are surrounded as well. Thank you so much for the Alberta office in having the Yukon co-host. We are an office of 3 staff, so it is not realistic for us to host a conference, even though we kind of would like to, but the Alberta, anyone who's hosted the conference knows how much work goes into it. And so we partnered, and they've been lovely in having us partner this way. And so thank you so much to all of the staff that put a lot of work into this event. I'd really like to acknowledge all the presenters that are here today. We really appreciate you bringing your time, your wisdom, and we're going to learn so much from each other and from you today, our collective conversations, the things that we can take back to really improve the lives of the children in our day-to-day work. Very grateful for everyone who's traveled so far. Usually it's me traveling really far, and it's nice that I had a 2.5-hour flight to get to Calgary, right? Direct. So that's not very common for me, and I know what it's like to travel across the country for a conference. Our last one was in Newfoundland and Labrador. So thank you. And so I'd like to actually acknowledge the people that are here today. So everybody from BC, can you stand up and show us who you are? So oh, they're all clustered, aren't they? And Lise is way over there. And Jeff. Welcome, BC. And then Alberta, I'm going to guess there's more of you in it, probably at every table. Up. Yeah, Alberta. Alberta is actually the largest advocate office in the country, correct? I'm not sure. Staff, I'm sure it is. Right, Erwin? It's a little bit bigger than Ontario. Saskatchewan. There we go. We've got 5, 6. And Manitoba. Perfect. Great. Thanks, guys. Ontario. Nice. You guys have a pretty big contingent, too. Nice. Quebec. Veronique didn't come, eh? She didn't come? Okay. And New Brunswick. They're pretty small, too. Bernard is still feeling it. Yep. For those of you who don't know, Bernard was the advocate in New Brunswick before he went over to BC, coast to coast.
We have a guy that's about 7 feet tall, and he's not here.
Christian. Yeah, I haven't seen Christian yet. Newfoundland and Labrador. Great. Good to have you guys here. The advocate, Jackie, is not here today. Nova Scotia. There we go. Nice. Christine is here. And Nunavut. Excellent. Welcome, guys. And you may notice, for those of you who don't know, Northwest Territories and PEI do not have advocate offices. So it is something we are trying to support if they're interested in that support. But we do have Marie Wilson here tomorrow as a keynote speaker who's from the NWT. So you can tell her about your work and see what she can do. So thank you all for the hard work you do. And please take advantage of meeting each other from the different provinces. Everyone has a little bit of a different mandate, right? Also, now I'd really like to acknowledge the young people that are here today, hanging out with us, adults, and inspiring us to do better, because when young people are here, we are better. And their participation is absolutely critical. It's not just a nice, oh, let's have them talk. It actually is necessary for us to do our work. And we believe that the best decisions come when we actually talk to young people themselves. So we'll be having a panel with them tomorrow. This evening, I'd like to remind everybody that we have entertainment at the banquet. We have one of Yukon's gold nuggets, Diet, a Yukon trio. She is an alternative folk roots country and traditional Aboriginal with catchy melodies and stories deeply rooted in her Indigenous worldview and Northern life. She comes from a national park herself in the Kluane territory of the Yukon, right in the sort of northern middle west. Anyway, and so she performs in a trio with her husband as Robert Van Leeshoot, who's on guitar and foot percussion, along with the Juno Award-winning producer Bob Hamilton. So you'll see them tonight. We're very excited to have them here. So it's an impressive occasion that we're all here together trying to make differences in the lives of children. And it's challenging to leave our work and come here, I know that. But when we take that break and pause and reflect on what we are doing, it gets us guided back on track so that we can do it even better. So thank you very much, and I'll turn it over to Del now.
Thank you, Annette. It is so great that this day has finally arrived. For those of us that have been working on it, it's been a long time coming to this day, and I thank you all for being here. So good morning to you, and thank you, Elder, for the prayer. Prayers always help me to feel grounded. They're also a reminder that we don't do this work alone, and so I very much appreciate that. And Alex, the song, it just really touched my heart. You know, Alex has been involved with the Child and Youth Advocate's Office for a number of years, and it is so, so good to see somebody who's so young and strong and vibrant. He's an emerging leader, and we knew that from the day we met him. So thank you very much for that, Alex. It's a pleasure for me to be here to open the Council's conference. I want to acknowledge that this event is taking place on Treaty 7 territory. It's very important for us to do that, to show respect for the land that we're on and the people that were on it before us. I'm also pleased to be co-hosting the conference with Annette King, the Child and Youth Advocate for the Yukon. Annette has been a very able partner in this process and has been with us every step of the way. And so while they're a small office, they are a mighty office. I'd like to also thank the organizing committee that put this together. It takes a lot of work, and so I have said to them, at a certain point, it's like being on a water slide. You know, there's that point where you're going down the slide and you might as well enjoy it because all the details will take care of themselves. And like Annette, I'd also like to acknowledge the young people that are here, not people who just feel young, but people who are young. Could you put up your hands? We want to be able to see you. Thank you very much for being here. You know, I'm so grateful that you're here. We need to hear from you. Not just as advocates, but as advocates who are going to go back to our communities and do work. We need to hear from you. These meetings are important for all of us. They bring colleagues from across the country together. They allow for greater collaboration, build collegiality and common purpose. And my belief is that this is especially important considering the number of common issues affecting youth in Canada today. I'll give you a couple of examples. The 2015 Truth and Reconciliation Commission. On June 2nd, 2015, the TRC released its findings and calls to action. There were 94 of them. The first 5 were related to child welfare. They represent a first step forward in redressing the legacy of Indian residential schools and advancing the process of reconciliation. The Alberta government is working with education partners, including First Nations, Métis, and Inuit leaders, to ensure that all Alberta students learn about the culture, history, and perspectives and contributions of Indigenous people to our country. It's very important that we see that happen, not just being talked about. So their feet are a bit to the fire in making this a reality in our province. Thoughtful reports and recommendations are one thing, taking action is another. In my view, there's a real need to take action on issues like this and on issues like mental health for young people. You know, the struggle for young people with mental health challenges can be very difficult, and supporting them to uphold their rights, interests, and viewpoints increase their visibility and their inclusion, and can improve the services that they receive. Another area of work is newcomer children and youth who face the unique barriers and challenges receiving supports and having their rights protected, fulfilled, and realized. Typically, our work focuses on the voices and experiences of young people. But to reach these young people, we need to reach out and engage their families and their communities. You know, to effectively advocate for young people, we must be willing to learn from them about the context in which they live. This is true for young people, whether they are building their strengths or facing their challenges or supporting each other. Context is so important for us to learn about. I'm looking forward to hearing about and discussing these and other topics over the next few days. The next few days will be an opportunity to learn about some of the organizational changes in our offices, to connect with our colleagues, and to recharge ourselves. All of our work, in my view, is relational. And what an opportunity it is to be able to connect in the beautiful scenic environment of Banff. I've noticed that they kept all the blinds down so that your attention is over here instead of over there. I also want to remind you to take advantage of all that Banff has to offer. Don't forget to dress appropriately. And I mean like weather related, so it can be hot and dry or it can be cold and wet, so you need to be prepared for that. If you have any questions, look to our staff wearing an OCYA pin like this. All of our staff are wearing pins like this. If you have questions about where the next building is that you're supposed to be at, or when the next meal is, or whatever you have for questions, they should be able to answer it. And if they can't, they'll find an answer for you. If you're a user of Twitter like I am and like Erwin Elman is, please use the hashtag CCCYA2017 and OCYA. Most of all, please enjoy the conference and your time here. In a few minutes, you'll hear from the President of the Council, Ontario Provincial Advocate for Children and Youth, Erwin Elman. It is my great pleasure to introduce him to you. Erwin brings to his position an extensive background as an educator, counselor, youth worker, program manager, policy developer, and child and youth advocate. In working with young people, he has carried out these roles with respect, borrowing from the courage and hope of the young people he served to create innovative approaches for youth in Ontario, Jamaica, Hungary, and Japan. For over 20 years, Erwin worked for the Children's Aid Society of Toronto and Catholic Children's Aid Society of Toronto. He was also the Director of Client Services in Central Toronto Youth Services, an innovative children's mental health center. On a personal note, I've had the pleasure of spending quite a bit of time with Erwin in the last few years. I have learned some wonderful things about him, but there have also been a couple of surprises. Some of the things I've learned about him that those who work with him on a day-to-day basis already know. He's an ideas guy. He always has new ideas. Second thing that you'd already know is that he's a big thinker. He thinks about big things moving forward in big ways. And when he gets a new idea about something big, I've seen that he can't sit still. That's his way. Couple of surprises I've learned about him too. You know, our previous president of the council was a provincial court judge. But it wasn't until Erwin was the president that the introduction of a gavel was made in our meetings. Erwin introduced it, and I've been quite surprised at how much he enjoys using that gavel in our meetings. A second surprise about Erwin that I'll share with you. Not long ago, the council was discussing the legalization of cannabis. So, yeah, and in the discussion, Erwin said he has never tried cannabis. Never. Not once. Ever. I was quite surprised to hear this, because my sense of Erwin in his youth was that, you know, he was this worldly, laid-back kind of guy, easygoing, kind of on the verge of being a hippie type, super mellow, and definitely not a guy who'd never, ever tried cannabis. That was quite a surprise. On a more serious note, from the first time I met Erwin, he has been a kind, caring, and steadfast support and mentor to me. He's a person of integrity who brings a clear sense of purpose and principle to his work, both as the advocate for Ontario and as the president of the Canadian Council of Child and Youth Advocates. Please welcome Erwin Elman.
Nice one, Bill. Yeah. Let me just say I too am honored to be here and on Treaty 7 traditional lands. I do think it's important too to acknowledge the people here before us and the land. And it's also true, I didn't try marijuana before. I didn't think I'd have to tell you all that. Or, you know, the interesting thing when I told Del, because we were going to these federal roundtables, and I thought, why am I going to this again? I thought I'd go to learn. But the interesting thing was, why was Del so interested in the fact that I had never tried? And we didn't quite get into that, because the conversation stopped there. It's been the other way around, really, in terms of mentoring. I've watched Del. I'm not a common strong guy. My staff can tell you. They get kind of vibrate. They call it vibrating. If you ask them, I can vibrate. I do have ideas, and that makes me vibrate too. But Del has this common strong presence, at least to me. Your staff might know you differently, but that's how I know you. And that's something that I'm drawn to. Intelligence, common strong, I'm drawn to, feel safe with, and led by. And Del's done that. And the fact that he's partnering with Annette and the Yukon is perfect. Because Annette, too, is common strong, but with an energy that's infectious. And it also draws you to it. And intelligence is something else that I think both of them carry, and that draws me. And I was pleased to lead a council that has them leading us here today, because I think that's the spirit that we'll take on and leave with. And that's part of what the council tries to do with these conferences, bring us all together, have us reflect on what we do with each other, learn new ideas, and go back home both stronger as a group in our own province or territory, and as a group collectively as a council. We have great members, and we're at a great place in terms of our council. Are all the provincial advocates who are here and their representatives in the room, if they could stand up? I don't so much as lead this council as try and bring us together. They lead me and they lead you. And I'd like to thank them for the honor of allowing me to be in this position of president. And I wanted to recognize you. So thank you for being here, as always. Get to know them. Ask them if they smoked marijuana when they were kids. Out them and come up here at the end of the conference and let us all know. With that, have a good conference, and thank you, Del and Annette.